It's a great time for outsiders to look at Norway and to come here. There's a lot of opportunity and a lot of exciting stuff going on.
Yeah, and I think it's the best time to build a company.
I think there's something ingrained in us, like culturally or like from being Norwegian probably, we shouldn't take so much risk.
It's just as a wake-up call. We need to find kind of the new revenue streams for the country.
What would happen if we just uncap our greatest founders? We let them just build and move fast. It's just experiment.
I think we're at a place right now where still we're a little bit behind our Nordic neighbors, but still really healthy and growing, and I think we're growing faster than any other kind of developed tech ecosystems around.
Yeah, I feel like there's been quite a big acceleration even over the past like maybe 5 years. Obviously, I think that's a worldwide thing when you look at like COVID and SERP and like 20 and 21 and obviously a bit of a crash.
Accelerated.
But we are still, I mean, I think somehow it helped still, there was a lot of more money coming into the ecosystem, public money, private money, international money, and there has been an acceleration even though obviously it's stopped a little bit. I still think it has actually been a little bit of a boost for the Norwegian ecosystem. And there's so much going on, so many different players who are helping out with all parts of company buildings from the early days until building large success stories.
That's been a staple of the Oslo ecosystem, right? That we've had more per capita incubators, accelerators, early initiatives, because we haven't had the same batch of successful entrepreneurs sharing the playbook and opening up the network and money and everything. We've had to rely on these institutional qualities to some degree.
True.
Whereas that's now sort of changing.
It is changing. I think that's a really good thing with the people who actually got their hands dirty and who, when talent is recycled, as you mentioned, Preben, I think there's a lot of potential and a lot of stuff happening with that.
You see, I think it's a positive what's happening on the macro level now with the Europe versus US, China, and the AI race, which just is a wake-up call for Europe and especially Norway, where we have a literal burning platform situation where we need to find kind of the new revenue streams for the country and an urgency to really develop a new economy for the country.
Yeah, it's a good way to look at it, that this outside pressure now creates a situation where you have to do stuff.
You need to be counter-cyclical in this business because then you will be able to get much better opportunities. So I think it's a great time for outsiders to look at Norway and to come here. There's a lot of opportunity and a lot of exciting stuff going on.
Yeah, and I think it's the best time to build a company, and it's the best time to build a company with less capital than before.
Some would say it's good that we have these first-time founders because they're the only ones doing the most insane challenges because they don't know how bad it is. So they just go ahead and try it. And some of them will make it.
That necessary naivety you need to like really go at something.
Yeah, I can do that. Oh, AI healthcare? Sure. I'll do
Banking.
it. So our culture now produces a different set of startups and founders than we had 25 years ago because there are different challenges, different impulses to create things right now.
And you don't necessarily need like hundreds of SDRs and huge marketing departments and stuff like that. You can build like a super small team. So we have a company called Idékapital in our portfolio. There are 7 people, and I've never seen a growth rate of that magnitude for such a small team.
Yeah.
It's just impossible to comprehend if you go like just 10 years back, 5 years back.
The need for a more international mindset and ambition to help raise the bar for Nordic companies and investors, the same alike. Jørn, you and I have talked a bit about this before, but the way that we feel maybe there's a slightly too low risk appetite in some senses at some times that, being a venture investor or a venture-backed company in Norway particularly, that maybe we should embrace risk more and we should take more risk. We should be more ambitious. We should think bigger globally from the onset when you're starting a company.
Feels miscalibrated, right? That we don't really understand what risk is or the different types of risk. The risk of staying where you are.
Yeah, exactly. The risk of losing out of a great opportunity, that's also a risk, right? And I think there's something ingrained in us, like culturally, or like from being Norwegian probably, we shouldn't take so much risk because we need to make sure that we can stay warm during the winter or whatever, I don't know. But there's something to work on there, I think, where we need to encourage each other probably, and where we need to reach out to our international contacts and network and get that inspiration. In my work as an investor as well, like I see a lot of successful and ambitious founders that aren't from here, that somehow ended up in Norway for various different reasons, normally love.
Trailing spouses? That's
yeah,
our
exactly.
primary talent channel.
Yeah, right? I mean, so our main export article, it's not fish or oil or anything, you know, it's attractive partners bringing people into Norway.
Specialization, that's what we know.
But it is funny, like, I mean, I've talked to so many people and it's like, why did you come to Norway? Like, how are you dealing with like the winter? Why are you here? They come for love. And then sometimes it works out and they stay. Sometimes it doesn't work out, but they also stay. And yeah, so they come for the love and they stay for the lifestyle. It's my impression, which is great. Anyways, a bit off topic there, but...
I think it's a good point because Oslo is better than its reputation. A lot of people have this feeling that Oslo is a slow city and maybe parts of that is true. But people who come here, they get a better feeling after a year or two or three because then Oslo actually goes beyond expectations, and so it's not as slow, not as dead as you thought. It actually is quite a good place to have a life.
And I talked to a Swedish investor saying that one of the big advantages of the Oslo ecosystem and the Norwegian is that they don't really have that kind of black hole as Spotify that sucks up all the talent.
Yeah.
So because that's a disadvantage if you want to build a company around, you know, big Google or Meta or something like that.
Yeah.
So that's actually also an advantage that we don't have that one big, huge tech company.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like you start out, you have this huge success, and then that huge success sort of just limits the next opportunities because of that.
So it's more distributed, the whole talent scene.
Yeah.
The oil and gas industry essentially was that giant gorilla.
Yeah.
And now we're a bit freer.
Yeah. So that's a good thing. We saw that back in 2014, I think. We had a little bit of oil recession, and a lot of companies was born in those days, and actually a little bit of the start of the Norwegian ecosystem in the software space.
That's a good point. A lot of engineering talent then had to reckon with the fact that, okay, I don't have a job right now. I need to do something, and that necessity.
I've seen a lot of examples.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have a lot of engineering talent and like a lot of just very technical talent that are going to be able to build amazing products. But then we're also known to not be the best at commercializing them, right? Which is another place where I feel like we have upside potential in just connecting people in a better way with where we can get commercial talent, preferably from other places as well, bringing other impulses, other cultures, more of that like mindset that you really need, thinking big and to like build something huge.
I think that's a great
outside.
point and also a super interesting case for investors coming from abroad, because you have a little bit lower prices on the companies in Norway, and you have the arbitrage on doing, you know, the commercial part.
Exactly,
so you can win
right.
with the whole know-how and the playbook from the larger, more experienced markets, and just boost these companies even more because they have the same talent and
exactly.
great ideas.
We're building beautiful things in a tiny little market that is Norway, right? Or if you include the Nordics, we start talking, slightly larger, but still a small market. And that arbitrage opportunity that you mentioned, with just boosting the commercial side of things, there's a lot of great stuff.
If only we could learn a bit from the others, because culturally there needs to be an explanation here. Right? If you have a B2C thing, you're going to sell to 1 million customers. Okay, the Swedes are better objectively at doing that.
Totally.
If you have 10 customers, you have a B2B thing, we're quite good at that. That's something we know and understand. We over-index totally on B2B in all kinds of ventures.
Yeah. Preben, you mentioned this like necessity back in 2014, like sort of how does that compare to today? How is it looking in today's market?
Well, I think we're a little bit of the same now in 2025. You have just the whole AI war going on with the US and China, we really need to up the game. And so it's not necessarily a necessity issue, but it's more of a just do or die kind of a situation.
Yeah, and the opportunity is just too great.
It's too big, and we need to invest heavily. And I think that's an enormous opportunity for founders and investors as well in Europe, Nordics, and Norway.
Yeah, times of crisis create a lot of innovation. That's just simply true.
Yeah, obviously. Back in the financial, it's a classic example of all the companies coming after the financial crisis in 2011. I think it's the best venture vintage ever, something like that. So you have all the kind of you have the smartphones coming up, you have cloud, you have the financial crisis, so you have talent there, and so much growth going on in that period. You have the Airbnbs and the Ubers of the world, right? So it's a good example, and the world is always a little bit more complex than that. But I think we're at a place now in Norway where we really see, I hope, also the politicians and investors see that this is a great opportunity, and we also need to act and build really a new kind of country and economy, and a lot of startups.
So much opportunity!
Yeah, our ability to understand the importance of really, really large bets, big outcomes, the power law. Is there some sort of allergy to the implications of power law in Norway? Maybe in the Nordics even, but I'm thinking this is even more so true here, that we kind of hate what it looks like when people really win. What would happen if we just uncap our greatest founders? We let them just build and move fast, not break so many things, just experiment, because you don't know what a great startup looks like. You have to actually try. So we have to start so many more experiments than we do. We get a few of them. How can we 10x this thing?
Yeah.
I think, first of all, it's like we don't have that many great examples yet, right? And I think you sort of need to see it to believe it, right? You said you'd never seen such explosive growth as you have at Databutton now. Like, now you'll start looking for it in a new way, right? It's like you sort of need to first understand that it's possible, and then you start going for it, I think.
But surely, there are so many good examples from the rest of the world, so we don't have to build everything here. How about we just skip a few lessons here and learn from the other smart people? And it's like Europe as a whole, we've been able to build these innovation ecosystems before. Let's say there is a culture for creating companies that actually solve meaningful problems right now. And I think that's true. If that's true, we want these founders to win. And we want them to win now. As in, there's a time value to solving these problems. We want to make sure that that happens right now. So how can we then allocate more resources into that? How can we worry less about, wealth tax, exit tax, all kinds of bullshit tax questions? How can we focus more on saying, oh, you look like a winner, let's put more resources onto you.
Yeah.
Oh, you can take on risk, you're comfortable with risk, here's all the stuff you need. We need to get there. We're almost there. We're missing something. We're gonna have to invite more people in that are super smart, super ambitious, so that we can learn from them and just skip a few lessons in class here.
Agree?
Yeah. I think that's back to like being open and allowing ourselves to be more ambitious, talk to people who are more ambitious, get help from people who are more ambitious, who have done it before, reach out to people that you think could help your cause. Because I think that's another thing about us as a population in Norway. We're quite careful when it comes to asking for help. And I think we have a lot of potential in just asking for help, getting help from other people, realizing that we might need it, and then just ask for it.
All of the stuff that's available on the outside of your organization. And
exactly.
That would be the ecosystem,
yeah,
right?
it could be the ecosystem, or it can be a completely random person in Germany who's like working on some obscure project. Most people always are just really happy to be able to help, right? Makes them feel valuable and needed, and that they're doing something that means something to other people. So that's my experience, at least. I don't know about you guys, but like whenever I reach out to some person, they're typically just surprisingly eager to help. Yeah. And I think that's something we need to like take more advantage of, because it's a untapped potential there.
It feels important to say that although some factors are looking bad right now, maybe you think that venture capital isn't readily available compared to 221 and ZERP and the good times, right? The fun times. There's never been a better time and arguably a better place to start a company than right here and right now. If you look at exponential technologies that are available to you, capital efficiency, talent availability, all these things, the building blocks are there. And so arguably then, if you are really talented and really ambitious, if you have agency, if you can be effective at working towards your goals, this is the time and place. No time has been better than right now to build.
Obviously. Yeah, I actually started a company back in the dot-com days, like 25 years ago.
Yeah.
And it was a B2B SaaS company. We coming straight out of school, so back then you didn't have the blogs, you didn't have the podcast, or all the kind of playbooks for B2B SaaS. We were kind of wondering, where do we buy a server?
Yeah.
Where the hell do we put it? The server, where is it going to stand?
Yeah. Where physically?
Yeah. And do we know someone who can code? We need money. Where do we get money? You go to the big companies to get money. It was just totally like another situation than we have now. So it's, I totally agree, and I think it's going to be better and better. It's going to be easier and easier to build companies, and that's just great for innovation all over the world, and especially I think in areas that's not the innovation hubs like Silicon Valley, because you distribute it and democratize the whole company building scene. So yeah, I think you're just going to see things popping up in. I think it's always important to have tight ecosystem, people working together, talking together, and usually physically, actually. A lot of examples in history about that. It's super important, but you can do it in smaller scale, I think. You don't need, the whole Palo Alto, Silicon Valley.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, Oslo is a pretty small city.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean,
and Oslo has become an amazing place to live over the past 25 years as well. A lot has happened, right?
Exactly.
And maybe with increased necessity and stronger building blocks, you can actually build some really awesome outcomes.
Yeah, I think maybe it's more concentrated, but you need the critical mass, obviously. So you need critical mass of funding, talent, role models, people helping around. And I definitely think we have that in Oslo. So I don't think it's an excuse that we have a little bit less.
No, sadly,
capital.
There is no excuse. Yeah. That's the scary part, right? Yeah. Everything else is there. So if you can't make it, it's probably because of you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Support that. It is beautiful to see the way that Europe is looking to come together again, more as like a big community instead of all these like fractions of little states where everyone has been sort of maybe looking more inwards over a long period of time, and back to sort of what we discussed before with necessity to make changes. I think we're seeing much more of a need to stand together in this time, just preferably without creating too much polarization or like drifting apart from the rest of the world. But if this can create more of a sense of community and collaboration and opportunity to build together, I think it's great.
It's a shared sense of urgency, right?
Yeah.
Oh shit, we actually need to do this right now.
We actually need to step up. We need to like make changes. And
we need to accelerate.
Together.
We need to grow. We need to build. We need to fix. We need to deliver on some of the visions, right? More so than talking and sloganeering. It's time to build.
Yeah,
it's time to build.
Sadly, that's just true.
Every kind of huge transformation, big change, or a big step up is based on kind of just understanding that you need to do it. That the floor is burning, and you just need to do something quite different and massively different as well.
Yeah.
So that's a classic way to do transformations, and I think it's gonna be the same on a very, very macro level, like in Europe, and also for Norway actually.